Dad Bod Jesus here. Excuse the appearance, been working outside today. I get a lot of questions about my property. I've had people ask, where do you live, when they see pictures of my property. And, ooh, look at that backlight. Woo, setting the mood. And I tell people I live in Arizona, and they don't believe me. So I'm going to walk you through part of my property and explain what's going on here. This is the part of our property we're kind of turning into a food forest. Most of the trees out here bear fruit of some kind, and others serve a purpose, which is usually microclimate or shade. Okay, so we're going to start over here. So these are my eucalyptus trees. These are some of the first trees that were planted on the property when it came into the family over 30 years ago. So these guys provide shade in the afternoon sun. This direction is west, setting sun, as you can see. And they shade all of this during the afternoon. So I'll show you why, because they're about 50, 60 feet tall. So they're big boys. You can use the leaves again, throw them in your bathtub, nice aromatic for you. And then our other nice little shade area, this is our best microclimate here. We've got a bunch of sisu, which people seem to hate, but we don't have them near sources of water or foundations, so they're not a problem for us, and they're in flood irrigation, so not a big issue. But it creates this nice microclimate, and you can see back over there we have some black pots where we start saplings and seedlings and all that. So during the winter, if we get a frost, which is not often, it'll be frost out here, and under there it won't be. So we call that area the nursery. That's where my house used to be. Thanks, Lowe's. So now, out here, what we've got. So we'll start with these. These are banana, which have been in the ground just a couple of weeks. These been in the ground for 3 or 4 weeks. Those have been in the ground for about a week or two. So this is a Java Blue. That's a dwarf Cavendish, another Java Blue, and another dwarf Cavendish. These guys, okay with direct sun, okay with heat. These guys are pretty cold tolerant. Those guys I'll have to cover this winter. But the only thing they need is they need protection from wind. So that direction is east, southeast. That's where most of our wind comes, or it comes from behind me from the northwest. So these guys are pretty protected right here with all the trees for a windbreak, and those guys behind them for a windbreak. So we planted these, probably going to be about a year or so before we get bananas. Around the base of them, actually, you can see it better on this one, I've got a lot of mulch and chip drop, which I also use in my chicken coop, and it's just chopped up trees from an arborist. And we pile that up around, and this is all flood irrigation. So when the water rolls in tomorrow morning, this will be about 4 or 5 inches deep, maybe deeper, depending on how good of a head water we get. And that will soak up water and keep it damp real well for a long time. In fact, this ground from the last rain we had weeks ago is still a little squishy. I'm jumping up and down, if you can tell. And you'll notice when I mow, I didn't take the grass away because it just added mulch and moisture retention around there. Mulch. Say hi, Toffee. She's the smart one. Hi, Oreo. She's the pretty one. So right here is our apple tree. Unidentified apple tree because it was planted so many years ago. We're talking decades. And nobody can remember what type of apple. They are a green apple. They will turn a slightly reddish, mildly tart. They are great for making applesauce, apple butter, all kinds of good stuff. If you like tart apples, like a Pink Lady, maybe even more tart than that, this thing does great. Now this year he had a little issues because he had some trees we just cut down growing up through, and we got a couple of areas that got too shaded and they died off. But trimmed him up, did some doctor work on him, and should be good. So again, in flood irrigation, gets lots of water, great with the sun. This used to be the only tree in the middle of this pasture until we started planting like crazy. And this thing, like every year, we had to trim it back because it would get, snapped branches from being overloaded. Okay, so now over here, We've got an ash, but what's more important is what's right behind it. There's a blackberry bush right behind it, and that's our fence line that they're going to grow on. The ash is simply for more microclimate. Same with the Drake elm that's right there that needs to be trimmed up. He was a transplant from somewhere else on the property that grew in. And then over here, we've got another microclimate tree. That's another Drake elm. And then mulberries. We've got lots and lots of mulberries. I'll walk you in there so I can show you. We are creating new microclimate. They grow fast, they grow crazy, and they get big. And they grow together with big, giant leaves. And they last pretty much all year. We got like a month and a half where they drop their leaves. But they do great for shade for plants that can't take the heat. So they should stay out of the kitchen, right? So this is a dwarf peach right here, which that's still pretty dwarfy. I don't think I'm supposed to use that word, right? I don't know. That is also a dwarf peach, which is not so dwarf anymore. It's starting to take off and grow up to the top. This right here is my wife's plum tree that she really, really hopes does well, but he's been a little sickly, but he got better, leafing out. He's died off a couple of times. So we walk out here further, and we got more of our mulberry trees. But right here, we've got a guava. And this thing is probably one of the most resilient trees we've had on the property. He's been in the ground for about 3 or 4 years, still small. The cold has gotten this tree a couple of times, and it's died back to stump. This is this year's growth, and this is the best it's looked. So we're hoping it survives this winter and keeps going. But as you can see, it's in quite the microclimate here, and it gets lots of water because, again, in flood irrigation. So then we walk over here, and we've got another mulberry we started over here, memorial to a former pet. And then another Drake elm that we planted for more microclimate. He's very, very young. He's been there about a year, and you can kind of see the tops up here. So he's up over my head by about 6 feet, about 12 feet tall. Then here is our morning shade, guys. These are cottonwood trees, and I know a lot of people hate these trees. Oh, they'll fall on your house, whatever. We have had branches drop that are, 10 inches around, but the great part is they're out in the middle of the pasture, and these are taller than the eucalyptus. I would probably say that's a good, probably 60, 70 or more feet up. They're pretty big. I cannot get my arms around the base of them. These were planted about 20 years ago, and our irrigation comes in these ports right here. And so they get the first water, and they're a water-loving tree. We have to get some really high winds for these to drop branches, but there's no buildings around for them to fall on. And even if the whole tree fell over, I mean, they could fall across the street, but they wouldn't hit anything. So these create the morning shade. So again, all we get overhead sun in big spots, in some spots. And then we use these small areas in here, as you can see when I showed you the dwarf peaches, for planting stuff that needs filtered light in Arizona. Now, we're going to walk over here. I'm going to show you our citrus. So this is a kumquat tree. Then over here is a funny one. This is a hybrid. This is a limequat. So think kumquats, but lime. This is a very productive tree. You might be able to see some on it. I don't see any. Oh, right here. So these guys will turn a lighter green, yellowish, and we know they're good to go. And you can eat those rind and all. They won't get much bigger than that, though. They'll get longer, but not much bigger. And the kumquats, well, when they come in, they'll be bright orange. He's doing all right. He's not as good as some of the other ones around him. And then right here is a giant orange tree, and you can see quite prolific, got a lot of fruit on it everywhere. Best oranges I've ever had, and again, they're down in flood irrigation out on the edge of it. But these were ripped out of the ground when they put in a development nearby that was an orange grove, and Somebody drove by and said, hey, you want some orange trees? $100 and we'll put them in the ground for you. Done. There used to be 3 of them. The other one sat right there. This is now, well, this is now my thornless lime here that we got going. Super productive. Unfortunately, too productive, and it got gangly and it bows to the ground. So we got to trim this up this year after we take the fruit off of it. This over here is my blood orange. We've gotten just a couple of blood oranges off of it, but this year there's a few fruit on there, so we hope to get more. This one, actually, I got that backwards. I apologize. That is my Meyer lemon. This is my thornless lime, and I remember that because my wife is ticked off because she doesn't like lemons, but she likes limes, and we haven't gotten any yet. But there's fruit on it this year, right up there. Yay. And then over here is our clementine, which needs to be trimmed up too because it got a little gangly searching for light, but it's right at the front of the headwater when irrigation comes in. And then over here is another orange tree. This was the other one. This is the 2 out of the 3 that survived, and we get lots of oranges off of that. And you can see there's a bunch right there. Shortly here, it'll start to look like a Christmas tree with decorations all over it because they'll turn bright orange here in about a month or 2, and awesome fruit. Longer you leave them up there, the better they get. Now, what makes this all possible? The not pretty part. There's my canna lilies. That ditch right there. For those of you not in Arizona, that is my irrigation ditch. That irrigation ditch feeds to these ports, and floodwater comes in and puts this whole property under about 5-6 inches of water all the way back. Toffee, what are you doing? Hi. So, it makes it very possible to have all of this, our little fruit forest. Okay, so yeah, that's our food forest. It is only possible because of flood irrigation, because even if we did drip line and sprinklers, we couldn't get enough water to all these to do this. You could, but it'd be expensive. Flood irrigation is much cheaper, and it looks pretty, looks nice. So when we first got this property, when we first got together, this was nothing but grass out here. There was just a couple of trees out here in the apple tree that I showed you. So we've planted a lot. My son has done a lot of holes, dug a lot of holes to put in trees. At one point, we figured out there's probably 30 to 40 trees that he's helped plant, and that doesn't include the ones that I planted before him. So, yeah, we get a lot of fruit out here. It's not completely year-round. We're still working on that. We've had a couple of fails, tropical trees that didn't make it. We planted them in the wrong spot, but we're learning. You know, my wife's in construction business and I'm a chef, so we, you know, this planting stuff we learn. So, but yeah, let me know if you have any questions, or if you want to see something else.